Lauren Hunt is our guest today, and she's an attorney and mediator in New York State and has practiced exclusively in the field of family law for over a decade. As a child of divorce, Lauren intimately understands how divorce impacts a family, and she works hard to mitigate those impacts for her clients. She has a fabulous social media presence on both Instagram and TikTok and provides really useful tips for divorcing people no matter where you live in the United States. Now, Lauren's greatest treasure in her life, though, is her family. In her downtime, you're going to find her exploring a new hiking trail with her husband and sons, potentially cooking up big Sunday breakfasts, and dancing to Baby Shark for the millionth time with her kids, Jack and Declan. Welcome to the podcast, Lauren.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so excited that we finally were able to connect in real time.
Right? I'm excited too because we are talking today about divorce goals and how you can use those divorce goals and get yourself focused to set yourself up for a good financial future after divorce, right?
Yep. And I think it's such an important topic and something that so many people overlook.
Right. Of course you want a good financial settlement in your divorce, but I think sometimes people don't know where to start. This is all foreign to them. They understand there's going to be this overwhelming piece called financial discovery, etc. But let me kind of take it back a little bit with you. So I mentioned in the intro that you are a divorce attorney who's really committed to putting a lot of resources out there for people who are getting divorced. And I just want to know why this is so important to you, because I know personally what a time commitment it is to do all that social media stuff.
It's so much. Here's the thing. We're in 2024, right? And if you look online to find out information about divorce in New York State or whatever state you might be in, right? I'm in New York, but wherever you might be, you don't really know what you can and cannot trust. People post I'm in a ton of moms groups online, right? Because I got little kids and holy cow, I need some input from other people. People post in those groups all the time. What does this look like for me? And the amount of incorrect information that is out there or that people pass off as correct information is just astonishing. So my goal is trying to make it a little bit easier to get some accurate and trustworthy information about the process that your family might be moving through. And quite frankly, I feel like, divorce feels like a big black hole to so many of us. We have no idea what it's actually going to look like. And that makes it really scary, right? And so if you get a little bit of information about what that black hole might actually entail, right? You can maybe put some boundaries around it. I think it really helps allow you to move through the process with a little bit more confidence. And when you're coming at decision-making from a place of confidence, you're making better decisions. So that's the reason why I really have focused so much of my time on creating resources that are actually going to be valuable and trustworthy for people.
I'm with you on that. You can Google anything and get all sorts of stuff, but you have no way of knowing whether that is legit information or not. These groups, I'm in a bunch of divorce support groups online because I want to know what people are talking about. I want to, see what's important to them and things like that. But you're right, there is so much misinformation. And then you've got people who are providing advice and services in the divorce space and taking money for it. And I've got to say, not all of them know what they're talking about. Accurate. And so it's really hard for consumers to differentiate what's legit and what's not, right?
Absolutely. And, that's sort of the idea is we want to combat the misinformation by actually giving trustworthy, credible information that hopefully people start to turn to in the first instance, rather than just the blanket Google search or the random post in the moms group.
Okay. I love it. Now, as we all know, divorces are really expensive. And as we talk about, yes, as we talk about setting yourself up for financial success after divorce, one of the things that comes to mind for me is don't bankrupt yourself in the process of divorce. Why do people spend so much money, some of them, on divorce lawyers?
Oh my God. You're saying that to both a divorce attorney and a divorce mediator, right? So I think some people lose their focus in divorce and they start to focus on just, I want to win every argument. Winning is a very subjective thing, right? You might have won that argument but lost the overall battle. And that's why I think when you're talking about setting up divorce goals, you absolutely need to look at, like, what kind of attorney am I hiring? Am I hiring an attorney who's going to do cost benefit analysis with me, talk me back from when I'm like looking at, hey, I just want to fight, right? Because if you just want to fight, and the attorney is able to talk you back from that, you could save tens of thousands of dollars, having not taught, not argued about something that was really irrelevant. So for me, if you're setting up your post-divorce financial future, you're looking at maybe a little bit of vision boarding around, like, what do I want my life to look like? But you're also strongly considering, what type of attorney am I hiring to take me through this process, right? Like the shark, you're going to spend a whole lot of money for. I always say, when you look for a divorce attorney, you're looking for a strategic attorney, right? And you've probably seen some of my reels on that point. Like, you got to look for somebody who's strategic, because they know when to pivot, they know where to put the time and effort, and they know where to walk back.
Right.
So, I really think that so many people overlook, like, what is the best when they're starting this process. They overlook, like, your attorney is an integral part, right? They're just focused on, I want X number of days with my kids, or I want X amount of money in my bank account. You've got to focus on, what type of attorney am I hiring?
You're talking my language when it comes to selecting an attorney, because I think people default to, I need a shark. And I always tell people, if they're asking me, they're at the beginning of the process, what do you think about getting an attorney? I say, you need someone strategic, just like you said, Lauren.
Yep.
Someone who is thinking about options and is being cooperative. But if they need to, they can turn up the heat. They can fight at any time, but someone who's going to try to be cooperative and get you what you truly want without bankrupting you.
Correct. They can properly advocate, not just fight. That's the key. When you hire somebody who's like the shark, right? They just fight. The shark, the bulldog, they just go into the fight just to fight, right? But when you're hiring somebody who's strategic, they're going in to advocate for what you need, not just now, but long term. And I think that's so often overlooked. And I think it's key, if you're starting the divorce process, or even in the middle, that you have an attorney who is an advocate.
Mm-hmm. So most people don't have tens of thousands of dollars to spend on a divorce attorney. It's just not feasible. So people ask all the time about, how do I save money on my lawyer? Let's talk, because this is the Find Me the Money podcast. Let's talk about the financial issues in divorce. How can people reduce their legal fees as it relates to the money piece of the divorce?
So first, I think there's always the potential to explore mediation, right? I am an attorney and a mediator. I think mediation is a wonderful resource in a lot of situations. You do not have to be kumbaya with your spouse to be able to go through mediation. I certainly handle my fair share of high conflict mediations. But mediation, you're spending money for one person rather than two different attorneys. And then potentially, if you're in litigation, all of the additional court things. So consider mediation. At the very least, consider it. You may choose not to do it, but consider mediation. Secondly, if you are actually hiring an attorney, talk with your attorney about, what's the best way for me to give you information. Do you want me to send it to you via email? Do you want me to save it all up at the end of the week, send it in one big email? Do we schedule a weekly call? What is the best way for me to get you information in a way that will be concise and organized for you? And then secondly, when you are sending them information, take 2 seconds to make it organized. I have so many times that people upload we have an upload system, right? You don't send me attachments, you upload them directly to your file. So many times people just upload things like a screenshot from their phone, and it's just saved with the random file name. Well, now I gotta go in and rename it. And yes, it seems like 2 seconds, but all of those little things add up. So do what you can and have a conversation with your attorney about, hey, how can I take on some of the load here? I have no problem with having those types of conversations, and I always have some ideas for my clients on that front.
I always tell clients, if you have access to online banking, go get your own bank accounts. Download them yourself. Put them in date order. Make sure you have every month there. Make sure you're not duplicating any months or missing any months. That is a task that can save you a couple $100 in terms of fees, right? Because even if you have your paralegal or your legal assistant work with those statements, there's still a cost to that, and it all adds up.
Yes. And like that sort of dovetails with being organized, right? Giving your attorney or information in an organized fashion will help so much. So in the discovery process, you're typically going to have to send your attorney a ton of documents. Okay, is there a way that you can organize it by folder in your own computer, right? Label everything, make sure everything is organized, and then put it into a zip file and give the zip file to your attorney. That way they literally just have to decompress it, put it into their system, and they're good to go. Things like that can save you a couple of hours of paralegal time or secretarial time. Uh, and those few hours might not seem like a lot, but it adds up because every single time we got to go into the file, we got to fix something like that.
I also advise clients to come prepared to meetings or phone calls, right? Have your list of questions ready, know exactly what information you need from your attorney, and don't be talking about the same issues that you talked over and over and over and over. I don't personally, as a forensic accountant, I don't mind someone asking a question to gain clarity on something that we talked about before, or to revisit an issue to say, your advice a couple months ago was this. Here's what information we have now. Is your advice changing in any way? Is there any reason why we should reconsider that? That's all cool. But when we have to beat the same horse over and over and over, it's wasting money, right?
Yes. And you've got to recognize, yeah, your attorney is a counselor at law, right? But they are a very expensive therapist if that's how you're trying to use them. And I think, certainly I have absolutely said to clients, I think that this would be more appropriate for you to connect with a therapist on rather than have my fees on this item.
Right.
And I think you just need to be ready as to like, hey, is this actually a legal issue? Or am I just really venting? And if I'm venting or I need some assistance of a therapist, or hey, even my family and friends, you've got to redirect the conversation.
Okay, so when you are doing the financial piece of the divorce, there's lots and lots of documents usually, right? There's bank statements, there's tax returns, there's pay stubs, there might be human resources files, God only knows what else. There's insurance policies, contracts. How do you stay organized when there are so many documents to track?
So, on our end, right, we're getting it in typically from a subpoena or from the other side, and it's kind of organized. But when my client is sending it to me or when my client is pulling it together, that's really when I want my client either to have an initial conversation with me about, hey, how do you want this information? Or at the very least, to take the 10 minutes to think about, here's the information I've got to get to Lauren. What is the easiest way for her to understand this? And I love, 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 love Excel spreadsheets. So I have had some clients that I've sent to them, hey, here's an Excel spreadsheet, right? It says, here's the item number, here's the description, here's what I think is relevant about it, and fill this out for me. And it is an amazing way to get some organization or like a high level overview of all of the information you are sending to me. So absolutely think about like, how can I get this information to them in an organized way, but also how can I give them sort of a high level summary of what it is and why I think it's helpful.
Well, and to get clarity on things, like sometimes I think clients will send over a bunch of documents because there's an issue of some sort, but they're doing a document dump and it's like, okay, some of this is irrelevant. We could weed that out. And so if you're asking them to help bring clarity to why a document's being provided, I think that can be helpful.
It is. And it's nice because sometimes I'll get that document dump, right? But I'll get it with my little Excel sheet on top. And I'm like, okay, this is not going to, like these items, I'm not even going to really bother about, but I'm going to circle back to the client during our weekly call and be like, am I missing something? Maybe there is something relevant to it, but I'm only going to look through all of that once I know that there's something valuable to me.
Okay, I'm a forensic accountant, so I like talking about hidden money in divorces.
And I like finding hidden money just like you do.
I know. It is so fun to find it. It's like, gotcha.
Exactly.
But what if you don't have money when you're getting divorced to hire someone like me? What do you recommend for finding money?
Love this question because we have to recognize that there's so many moms out there that they don't have the financial resources, even though, maybe there hasn't been an award of counsel fees. Maybe there hasn't been an award of expert fees, or just they don't maybe even have an attorney. I think a very good way to start is certainly the resources that you provide, right? You've got some amazing things out there. But secondly, I think have a meeting with a divorce attorney. Understand from that divorce attorney, hey, I might not hire you, but I want to know, what do the judges in our area look at? What do I got to look through these records? How can I prove my concerns? Because that those attorneys, right, they know the judges in your area. They understand what those judges typically want to see. And then, you know what? You go out and be your own forensic investigator. You get the bank records, you review them, you create your summaries, and you've got to think, am I proving like hidden income, right? Maybe it's a situation where they are self-employed and they write off a ton of personal expenses, right? Everything seems to be a business expense. Okay, then you've got to get all of those tax records. You've got to prove whether those whether those write-offs were actually business expenses or personal expenses. But maybe you have a situation where, hey, they operate a construction company, and you know they show $30,000 on the books, but you know that your lifestyle is not a $30,000 lifestyle. Then your goal there is pulling together all of the evidence to show, hey, here's what our lifestyle is. Here's what, here's the types of cars we drive. This lifestyle simply could not be financed on 30,000, right? So
Right.
you really got to look at like, what kind of scenario am I in? What proof do I need to show the court to prove that scenario?
Right. It all comes back to evidence. And I'm telling
Yes.
women this all the time. If you're going to go into court and make an allegation, but you don't have any evidence to back it up, a judge is not going to listen to you. He's hiding money. The judge is going to say, show me the proof. The proof is, look, we found a secret bank account. How do you find a secret bank account? Usually just by looking at your joint checking account, because most of the time they just transfer money to their secret account right from the joint checking account. It's actually really easy to find. And so I like working with women to show them, just like you said, I think one of the concepts, he runs all the expenses through the business. And you said you've got to prove that there's this personal stuff. And probably the listener out there is saying, oh my God, well, yeah, I got to prove it, but how would I ever do that?
Good point.
It's a matter of taking that business credit card, let's say, that he's using. You know, he uses a business credit card. You get those statements for that credit card. You literally go through line by line and start marking what is a personal expense.
Yep.
And you add all those transactions up. That's your proof. It is as simple as that.
Exactly. And the number of times, I'm sure you've seen it, but I've seen it, the mortgage, right? The mortgage payment.
Yes.
All of the car expenses, all of the Amazon purchases, all of it runs through that business credit card. That's why it's kind of wonderful that we have so many people use credit cards now, right? Because it's so easy to track. It's time consuming, but it's easier to find.
Oh, but your husband started using cash because he didn't want you to know what he was spending money on. That's okay too. Let's track exactly how much cash he took out and used. He had to get it from somewhere. He withdrew it from the bank account at the ATM or in the branch. We get those transactions off the statement, add them up. You know, how fun would it be to go in front of the judge with a list of 50 cash withdrawals from your account that add up to thousands of dollars over the last 6 months? Judges are smart. They will listen.
Absolutely. So long as you come in an organized fashion with your proof, they absolutely will listen.
Okay, so this is a little off the beaten path, but it kind of relates to what we just talked about with putting all the personal expenses through the business.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone knows that there is a level of tax fraud that is committed there. And so I have clients who say, I'm reporting him to the IRS. This is what I'm going to do. What's your advice on that issue?
Bite off your nose to spite your face. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot. I mean, there's a million ways I could go about it. But, do you really want to do that? Right? Because if you impact their earning ability, yes, you have the ability to argue that, hey, they used to earn this. It should continue to be imputed to them. But are you making your life harder? Right? Because it's just more argument. So my advice is typically maybe leave the IRS out of it. But I'm interested. What's your advice?
My advice is your number one goal in your divorce is to get paid. You get paid. Number one goal. Everything else is secondary. If there is any way that getting the IRS involved is going to impact what you get, then let's not do it. We could always do that down the road. So number one, get paid. Get your money before you have the IRS standing in line in front of you, because the IRS will stand in line in front of you if there is money owed to them.
Oh, yeah.
Number two, really important consideration is there potential that you could be on the hook civilly or criminally with the IRS for whatever went on because you signed a tax return, you lived that lifestyle, you knew that you had to be making more money than that, you could become responsible for that as well. And so do we really want to alert the IRS to a problem that you might ultimately be responsible for?
Love that. And also, I've had one person who was like dead set on it. I was like, go talk to a tax attorney before you do anything. And I absolutely think if somebody is still dead set on it after hearing how you beautifully explained it, go talk to a tax attorney before you do anything.
Way back at the beginning of this, you talked about winning. We want to win in our divorces, and I see clients fighting tooth and nail over things that don't matter. You know, the stupid little statue that they got on a vacation overseas, and they spend so much money on these things that don't matter. Is there a way for someone to know if they won in their divorce or if they got what they deserve so that they can stop fighting?
Absolutely. So I think you know if you won by knowing what your true goals are for your post-divorce life. And I'm not talking about, what the settlement terms are. I'm talking about what's your world look like 5, 10, 15 years down the path, right? So you want to take some time to just dream. I'm waking up in 5 years. Walk through your day. What does your day look like? Right? Then you distill that into 3, 4 goals. And those goals again are not like I've got 50-50 custody, or I'm sorry, I've got primary physical custody, or I've got X amount of, support, right? Those goals are bigger, they're broader. I have a great relationship with my kids. I have financial security, right? Because once you get to the end of your divorce, you can as you're negotiating those final terms, that's what you're looking at. Like, are these terms going to set me up if I project them out over X number of years for financial security? If the answer is yes, you've won.
That's why it's so important when you're going into that financial settlement to think long term. One of the examples I have is women often are giving up rights to retirement accounts. They're doing that maybe because in exchange they're getting home equity or something like that. And I understand the home is important, et cetera, but I really caution people against giving up retirement funds because do you have the ability to save enough before retirement age if you don't take anything on this at this divorce time? So really important to think about those long-term goals and run the financial scenarios.
Absolutely. And there's, certified divorce financial analysts or CDFAs.
Yes.
I always forget what the A is. They're wonderful people. Sit down with them for a consult. Spend the maybe $200 to grab a consult with them because they can project that out for you. And, I think the idea of like, I want the house. I'm so tied to the house. I want my kids to have that security of their home. Okay, great. But like at the cost of your retirement, it is a significant trade-off.
Or even maybe short term, you want to be able to take vacations with your kids. And if you're in a house that is saddling you with too much monthly expense that you have nothing left over to go on vacation, is that the quality of life that you want with your kids? You may want experiences as well. And so important to think about all of those things. Ooh, exactly. This was fun, Lauren. I love it.
Good. I'm glad. I had such a good time.
So I know that you have a couple of free resources that you're offering to listeners. The first one is your free divorce e-course. Can you tell me what that is about?
Yes. So it is an email series. Admittedly, it's for people, it's focused on New York law, right? So it may not be super relevant to people outside of New York in terms of the exact statutes that I reference, but a lot of the concepts remain the same, right? Because I talk about setting goals for your divorce and things like that. So it's a free e-course and it arrives in your email inbox. And we go soup to nuts through certainly New York State law, but other things that you need to consider, like, do I want to trade off the house? What does it look like if I waive on some level of retirement? And so I think it could be a really good resource for pretty much anybody going through a divorce.
And then you have a divorce guide 101 type of thing, right?
Yes. So this guide, right? I've gone through a variety of different kinds of names for it, but the idea behind it is you are at the start of your divorce and you're setting out your goals for your divorce and your post-divorce life. So this guide helps you walk through, how do I set some goals, some good goals for my post-divorce world? How do I find an attorney that I like, right? And generally, how do I put myself into a frame of mind where I can be organized and powerful through this process?
I love both of those, and we're going to link them in the show notes so everyone can have a chance to get them. Lauren, thank you so much for being with us today. You have so much knowledge. I want everyone to start following you on social media. I believe you're at Lauren Hunt ESQ.
Absolutely. At Lauren Hunt ESQ on all platforms. I kept it easy.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you.